Hey, what's going on, guys? TheHORRORman back with the next Top 20 for 2020. This time I'll be counting down my top 20 favorite vampire films. The Top 20 for 2020 series was created by myself and my fellow Super Slash Bro, Jason from Horrific Nightmares. Twice a month, we randomly select a theme and count down our top 20 favorite films from that particular genre. There are a few other rules as well, such as we can only feature 20 films, no honorable mentions. We can also only feature one film per franchise. And Jason and I only include films we actually own on physical media. If we don't own a film, it doesn't appear on our lists. The randomly selected theme this time was vampire films, and we decided to add one extra stipulation. We are only allowing ourselves to feature one film simply titled Dracula. With that being said, multiple films on our lists can contain the name Dracula in the title. We just can't feature more than one film simply titled that. Before I get into my ranking, it's important to remember that this is simply my personal opinion. And so, here we go. My top 20 for 2020 of my top 20 favorite vampire films. Coming in at number 20 is Vamp. Now I know this one gets a lot of hate, and I can understand that, but I like it. It's sort of a much lower scale from Dusk Till Dawn. It has a very colorful setting, and I thought it was at least worthy of this list. So, here it is, at number 20. At number 19 is another one that seems to get a lot of hate, but again, it's one I enjoy. It's Daughters of Darkness. On the back here, it says, a fairy tale for adults, and that's exactly what this is. It's slightly pornographic in a way, but a lot of vampire films are. This is one I tend to enjoy more than a lot of the others that kind of go in that direction. Again, mainly for the scenery. I really love the setting in this one. It has some great gratuitous nudity, and it's number 19. Speaking of gratuitous nudity, my number 18 pick also has a lot of it. It's Andy Warhol's Blood for Dracula. This was written and directed by Paul Morrissey, so of course it has gratuitous nudity. But, as I've already stated, a lot of vampire films seem to. I really enjoy this one, especially as a double feature with Flesh for Frankenstein, and Blood for Dracula is number 18 in my top 20 for 2020. Coming in at number 17 is a bit of an obscurity. It's Nightlife. This one is about a female vampire who awakens after a 100-year slumber. She falls in love with the doctor, but soon realizes her evil vampire lover from the past has followed her into the future. My number 16 pick follows a slightly similar storyline. It's To Die For. This one is about a vampire who resurfaces in Los Angeles. He falls in love and decides to start a new life. But an old enemy has followed him there, and it's time to settle the score. Coming in at number 15 is Salem's Lot. This is, of course, based on Stephen King's second published novel of the same title, and it's directed by Tobe Hooper. It also features one of the creepiest looking vampires in movie history. At number 14 is Blood and Donuts. I actually featured this one in a Rare Movies Not on DVD or Blu-ray video. So if you want to know more about it, be sure to check that out. Next up, at number 13, is another movie based off of the work of Stephen King. It's The Night Flyer. Coincidentally, like Salem's Lot, it also features one of the creepiest looking vampires in the genre. Coming in at number 12 is Pale Blood. I knew this one had to make my list, not only because it stars the awesome Wings Hauser, but because Pale Blood is not only a vampire film, but it is also a slasher. At number 11 is My Grandpa is a Vampire, also known as Gramp Eyre, which is actually the title I prefer. This one stars Al Lewis from The Munsters. It's a New Zealand production, it's super fun, it's ultra rare, and it's number 11 in my top 20. We're into the top 10 now, and coming in at number 10 is Near Dark. I'm sure a lot of others would probably have this ranked much higher. Some may even have this ranked as number 1. And I can see that. But for me, it's number 10. Here's another one at number 9. I know others will be ranking much higher, and potentially number 1. it's Fright Night. Again, I can understand the love for this one, but there are 8 vampire films I actually prefer to this one. So, for me, it's number 9. Coming in at number 8 is Martin. This seems to be a favorite among those who have actually seen it. It was directed by George A. Romero and is a nice twist on the vampire genre. I personally love it, which is why it's my number 8 in my top 20. At number 7 is my favorite of all the Dracula films. It's the 1979 adaptation starring Frank Langella. This one is all about atmosphere. Coming in at number 6 is the sci-fi vampire film Life Force. Alright guys, if I'm being totally honest, this one ranks so highly on my list because Matilda May is stark naked throughout the entire movie. And if you've seen it, then you know it's worth it for that alone. It's also worth mentioning that this here is the first pressing of the Scream Factory release, including obviously the extremely rare slipcover, and it features a bonus feature that was later dropped from the re-release of the film. As we head into the top 5, I realize this list has not turned out the way I initially expected it to. But here we are. My number 5 pick is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This movie is just so much fun. I can't even count how many times I rented this when I was younger, and it's still a favorite to this day. At number 4 is Vault of Horror. Now, I did consider dropping this from my list, since ultimately it is a horror anthology film, but it does include a vampire segment in one of my favorite vampire stories, Midnight Mess. And then I thought, I also featured Michael Jackson's Thriller on my top 20 favorite zombie films list, so I figured, why not? We've reached the top 3, and if you guys know me, you know this one was coming at some point. Well, here it is at number 3, The Understudy, Graveyard Shift 2. I would have loved to have also included the original Graveyard Shift on this list, but rules are rules, and I had to choose one. I went with the sequel because I've always had a soft spot for this one. Despite the fact that the first Graveyard Shift is definitely the better film, I just prefer the movie set setting of the sequel as opposed to the cab storyline of the first. I love the fact that this one is about a vampire auditioning for a role of a vampire in a movie. And it's so cheesy and so much fun. Coming in at number 2 is the movie I rewatch more than any other film on this list. It's The Lost Boys. I may very well consider this to be my favorite vampire film on any given day, depending on my mood. I love it so much. It's so nostalgic for me. I love the characters. I love the setting. I love everything about it. With all of that being said, however, there is one vampire film I consider to be the ultimate vampire film. It has the perfect vampire atmosphere, the perfect vampire setting, and the perfect vampire. Not only is it my favorite vampire film of all time, I might actually consider it to be the greatest vampire film ever made. My number 1 favorite vampire film is Subspecies. When it comes to Full Moon, most people would probably say Puppet Master is the closest thing to a masterpiece the company has ever produced. But I beg to differ. The masterpiece, in my mind, is Subspecies. It was filmed on location in a real castle in Bucharest. It features a local celebration with creepy masks. It has a truly awesome storyline. But most of all, it features the creepiest yet somehow most likable vampire in the history of vampire films. Again, in my opinion anyway. Radu, to me, is the greatest on-screen vampire of all time. And his first appearance was in Subspecies, my number 1 favorite vampire film. So there you have it, guys, my top 20 for 2020 of my top 20 favorite vampire films. What do you think? Comment below and let me know. And be sure to check out Jason's top 20 for 2020 as well. Also, as always, we invite you to join in. We'd love to see your top 20. Thanks for watching, guys. Be kind. Subscribe.